some of these indigenous tribes do have to work quite hard for their existence. But we also hear numbers like the actual amount of time that they do working is actually quite small, and they do spend a lot of time relaxing or dancing or enjoying one another. It sounds almost like wistful to think back on what our existence once was and what it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I always wonder, like, okay, so are they just romanticizing this? Are they not really showing us the hard times? And that's partly probably true. But I still think what we do in our highly technical dependent society is that we just assume newer is better, and we don't look at what we might have lost. And what we've lost is connection, to connection to really to our purpose. I think it's really like maybe we've lost the most important thing, because we've lost this realization that by respecting the traditions and by respecting the natural world, we can then have healthy children, which is the purpose, as far as biology is concerned, of human existence, right? It's not so we can get more likes on social media, although
That's
that's
a
fun
very
too.
good point. That is fun too. You're right. Okay, so going back to deep nutrition, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you wrote it. It's been a minute now since you've written it, but you write about four pillars of human health. I wonder if you could, inform us what those four pillars are, and how has your thinking evolved on those things over time? Now that it's been a while since you've written the book, do you find the argument is stronger? Would you have underplayed different ones or overplayed ones that you brought up in deep nutrition?
I love that question. Yes. No, the argument is the same, and that's kind of points to the foundational truth. So, what are these four pillars and why do they matter? Well, they matter because they are the common elements of all successful cultures. And so Weston Price found 11 cultures around the world that were clearly successful based on the criteria of straight teeth initially. Like that's really all he was really looking for, straight teeth that didn't have a lot of cavities. But it turns out that when your diet produces straight teeth and prevents cavities, it also is good for the rest of the body, and it's good for your children. So he found just healthy people and attractive people, right? So straight teeth, we I think instinctively know are an indication of something good about that person, right? Like that reproductive fitness, really, that's like the instinctive. That's why nature, well, I'm getting off track. Sorry. Let me go back to the four pillars. And we can go to that later. So the four pillars are common to all successful cultures, not just the 11 that Dr. Weston Price looked at, but the blue zones that were studied by Dan Buettner. It's a very popular book that came out in the early 2000s, way after, almost 80 years after Weston Price's book came out. And then just like everywhere, like, like the Mediterranean diet truly is got all these going too, and everywhere you look. So, what are the four pillars? They are fresh food, unadulterated by even cooking or dehydrating or anything, just fresh. And then fermented food and sprouted foods, that's the second pillar. Those are foods that started fresh, but we preserved them and then enhanced their nutrition by either fermenting or sprouting them. And then the third pillar I call meat on the bone, just to say that we don't want to throw away the bones and the ligaments and everything like that. It's not like you have to eat, bone and meat all the time, but you don't want to make you like forget about the nutrition. You don't want to forget about the nutritional value of the skin and the ligaments and the joint material and the bone material itself. And you want to make bone broth out of it. So the third pillar could also really be called like, don't forget about bone broth. And the fourth pillar is organ meats, and that is like this nutritional powerhouse that most of us in America just like completely ignore. Don't even think liver is food, or the marrow and bone marrow and things like hearts and kidneys and the bladder and tripe and all of these things that indigenous cultures used and loved. That those are the four pillars. So those are now not only are has it not like has my mind not changed about that, to go back to the other part of the question, more and more people are doing this. Like since I wrote the first edition of Deep Nutrition, which had come out in 2008, I got involved with the Lakers, and we got a lot of publicity around the Lakers and how their diet was unique. And we were doing bone broth there. We were doing fermented foods. Kombucha was their substitute for soda. And kombucha is a fermented food. And we were using traditional fats and other stuff too. But the diet got a ton of publicity, just a ton of publicity. And so many people have since reached out to me to say that I read about you, I read your book, and it inspired me to create a bone broth company. Or, oh gosh, we've got a little fermentation company, and your book just like inspired us to keep going because this is now we know it's really an important. It's not just a niche; it's really important for human health. And other people have written books on the topics that my book was about. So it's just not revitalized, but reaffirmed the absolute truth of what went into deep nutrition.
Yeah, wow. I absolutely love that. Thank you for updating us on that. And I know you've updated your book as well, but the main core tenets still stand and are proving to be more true now than they were before.